Hi there, everybody. I hope you're all well. This is MAW00001 with another review video. I'm so sorry this is late. I have had such a hectic weekend with Halloween and Samhain, and uh, there is just not enough time in the day to read comics and have a social life and make videos and everything else. But I am at least making this now before the new comics come out tomorrow. So hopefully it'll give you an idea of what comics were out, even if it was only last week. As always with these videos, and I will always say this is just my opinion, my view on the comics that come out last Wednesday. Please make up your own mind on them. The best thing you can do is to, if you any of the comics you see here look interesting to you, buy them yourself and make up your own mind and make up your own decisions. And maybe make a video and tell everybody else what you think of the comics. And first, we have. It's not a Scott Liddell comic. No, it's Black Hawk. Um, yeah, I said in the last time I reviewed this comic, which was issue 1, I said that this was a poor man's GI Joe. I take that back. It's worse than a poor man's GI Joe. This comic it's just not going anywhere. I don't really see what this comic is supposed to be about. It doesn't seem to know what it's supposed to be about. The artwork in it is just terrible. There is no plot by the looks of it. It just seems to be a big amalgamation of uninteresting characters in pretty dire storytelling plots, and yeah, it is a very pointless comic. Um, there you go. Next we have Voodoo, which is again a very pointless comic. The artwork's okay, but there is no story to it, and that's all I can really say about this comic. There is not much else I can say about it. I'm trying to think of something nice to say about it. The cover's nice. The cover's pretty interesting, and that's about it. If even if you have some cash spare after picking up your comics this month, I really wouldn't bother picking this one up, or Black Hawks, or the next one actually, because this is some of the worst comics I think I've read from the new DC 52 with these comics. And the next one coming up now, it's just not good this week. And the next comic that's coming up is I Vampire. I reckon this comic could have been really good if they had a better artist and a better writer. I could see so many great ways they could have these characters with stories and that, and it's just a terrible, terrible comic. I Vampire. I think that's the worst thing about I Vampire. It could have been a good comic, but it's not. And unless they change the creative team on this, it never will be. Um, but then seeing from what I've read, seeing that DC isn't going to be cancelling any comics, even if they lose 50% of their readership on the comic for the new 52, this comic will probably run for at least a few more months to go. Ah, here we go. Teen Titans, Scott Liddell. Yeah, it's not as bad as number 1. It's not as bad as the 2 issues of Superboy, and it's definitely not as bad as the 2 issues of Red Hood and the Outlaws. It was okay. There was some fun moments in this comic. The artwork's getting better. I'm still not too keen on the new designs for characters like Robin, or Red Robin as he's known in this, and Wonder Girl. Still not too sure about the way that the characters are being portrayed in this comic, but I suppose luckily enough there was 3 comics come out this week that were worse than this comic. Yeah. Next we have Savage Hawkman. It was okay. You know, the artwork was alright. There was actually some story to this. And you know, give it another few issues, and it could probably be pretty good. But it's just getting it to those few issues, and I think a lot of the comics that are out at the moment for DC, that's one of their downfalls, is they seem to be taking a long time to actually get the characters, you know, into their sort of like situations and that. So yeah, Savage Hawkman, it was okay. Not great, but it was okay. Batman, the Dark Knight. Phew, I forgot what this was. And not surprisingly, because I actually read this comic, and I read this comic, read it halfway through, had to put it down, go off and do something, and when I come back to pick up this comic, I completely forgotten what had happened in this comic, that it had that much of an impact on me. The artwork's okay, but it just, you know, there are a lot. Well, there's two better Batman comics out from DC, and that's Batman and Detective Comics. I really, really wouldn't waste my money on buying Legend of the Dark Knight. Sorry, not Legend of the Dark Knight, The Dark Knight. See, that's how much of an impact it had on me. I can't remember the title of it now. Superman #2. Artwork's nice. Not really keen on the way they're portraying Superman. Maybe it's just the way I'm reading the comic, but he does seem to be portrayed quite aloof, as if he sees himself to be better than humans. And maybe it's because they're saying now that he didn't have Ma and Pa Kent as he was growing up. I don't know how early on in his life he lost Ma and Pa Kent, but to me, the character needed Ma and Pa Kent to ground him. Even though he had all these superpowers, Superman needed to be grounded so that he would help people, and this Superman doesn't seem to have that grounding. Fury of Firestorm, the Nuclear Men. It was interesting. It was weird. It was very weird, but it was interesting. And nice artwork in it. That seems to be something with the new DC. They do have some comics with really nice artwork in it. But as I always say, you can't have something that looks nice if it hasn't got any substance. And a comic book needs nice artwork and a nice story and good writing. But the writing on this is not too bad. I would probably pick up #3 just to see where they're going with this. Um, you know, it's one of those comics where it's okay, but there are better comics out there. And this is one of them. The Flash #2. I actually picked this up from my local comic book shop. I know when I first said about the Flash #1 that it was a real pity because this is going to be the first time in 30 years that the Flash wasn't going to be in my standing orders. But I read this and I thought to myself, no, I'm going to have to pick this up for myself actually. The story was okay. The artwork, still something not quite right with the artwork for me, but you know, I think it's got potential. As they say, as the saying goes, I think it's got legs, and it could run. And yeah, it's it. You know, I might even pick up issue 3, and I might actually still have the Flash in my standing orders because it wasn't too bad. Next we have Aquaman. this surprised me. I really didn't like the first issue of Aquaman. This one, I liked. I liked it a lot. And again, the only reason why this isn't higher for last week's comics is because there were better comics than this, but this was a good comic. It was fun to read. It was enjoyable. The artwork was really nice. Um, yeah, how much more praise can you give for a Jeff Jones comic? You know, um, on the downside, can't really think of a downside on this comic actually. It was a really fun comic. I haven't picked it up yet because obviously there are better comics out there, but you know, if I can get it cheap on somewhere, I probably will pick up number 2. Green Lantern, The New Guardians. Absolutely brilliant. I want to know why Kyle Rayner is got these 6 other rings following him around. I want to know where LaFraise is, the Green Lantern, Agent Orange. I want to know why the Guardians decided to do with Ganeth, why they decided to do to him what they did to him. Not to spoil anybody's enjoyment of this comic if they haven't read it yet, but I think by now you probably have if you've got it. It's a really good book, really enjoyable. I want to read number 3. I can't wait until number 3 comes out of this comic. It is absolutely brilliant. If you haven't got this comic, pick it up because it is a really good read. It's probably the best Green Lantern out there. All-Star Western, absolutely fantastic. The artwork is a little bit, iffy. But I'll tell you what, the artwork in this comic, there's actually 2 stories in this one, and the artwork in this comic, especially the artwork in the second story, reminded me so much of the original All-Star Western comics, which had the original Jonah Hex stories in it. And it brought me back to my childhood actually seeing that artwork. It's a really good story, very gripping. If you like things like stories about the Illuminati and conspiracy theories and that set in the Wild West, this comic is for you. And even if you don't like that kind of stories, this is a brilliant comic. And if only if it wasn't $3.99. Best comic of the week, Justice League Dark. Absolutely fantastic. The portrayal of the characters they've got on here are nigh on spot on. Even the way they portray Deadman in this comic is fantastic. Miles better than the way they portray Deadman in the DC Universe Presents comics. The artwork in here is great. I'm still a little bit ticked off about how they've dressed up Zatanna, but again, I suppose it'd be a bit difficult for them to draw her in her usual stage show clothing, in the way that they're using the character in this comic now. But other than that, it's just niggly little things that I find problematic with this comic. It's just a fantastic comic. If you haven't got this comic, you should have this comic. And that's really all I can say about it. So, thank you for watching. Again, sorry about the lateness of this video. Hopefully, my next review video will be on time. Don't think there's any more holidays coming up until Christmas Yule, is there? So, with any luck, the next one should be alright. Thank you for watching. As always, please comment. Thank you everybody who subscribed to my channel. If you like my videos, feel free to press the like button at the bottom. And yeah, again, just make up your own minds on the comics that I've reviewed here. If you've got any questions, feel free to ask. If you don't agree with some of the things I've said, then again, please feel free to ask. I'd like to hear what your opinions are. Thanks for watching, and ta-ta for now.